you've been muted, so if you have any questions, please use our chat or Q&A box, and you may ask questions at any time. Today we have our lovely Jenny Simpson joining us. She's our Senior Learning and Development Consultant, and she will be talking to us about creating impactful employee experiences through onboarding and engagement strategies. And then towards the end, we have some great news to share with you all, and I have invited a special guest to join me, so stick around until the end. So here we are, ready to start. Jenny, take it away.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Jenny. I am excited to talk to you a little bit about employee engagement and onboarding. I have a lot of information because as I was putting this together, it was like, oh, I want to tell them this and I want to talk about this. So there is a lot to cover, so I'm going to jump right in. Just to start off with some stats, I think it's always good to take a look at, and we're going to start off with onboarding and the importance of onboarding. When we look at kind of from a stats perspective, the biggest indicator of engagement and retention is the first 30 days. So that's why I want to talk a lot about onboarding and how it relates to engagement. 86% of new hires say that they make their decision to stay with the company within the first 6 months of starting. So again, shows that onboarding is key. A good onboarding program can help reduce or help increase productivity by up to 60% for people that are starting. A lot of companies have onboarding, some type of onboarding program, 86% in this survey. But the trouble is only 46% of them say that it lasts 1 day. And then 26% says it lasts 2 or 3 days. When we look at onboarding, it has to be much longer than that 1 day of getting people on board. I have a question for you in the chat, and I'm wondering if you guys can tell me, from an onboarding perspective, when does your onboarding start at your organizations? When does your onboarding start? And if you just want to let me know in the chat, that would be great. Does it start day one? When does it start? Trying to get the chat open here. We have a couple comments in the chat at the offer letter, which is great. We have when the offer letter is signed, 2 weeks prior to the offer letter start date. Love that. We organize before the hire. Information is sent the week before. Love it. Great, great. So when we look at onboarding, that's exactly when it should be starting. It should be starting when the person has signed the offer letter. The reason being is we want to make sure that they feel included right from the get-go. Okay. When we look at kind of best practices, it actually starts before the onboarding process starts way before the person actually comes into the building. Couple things when we look at those onboarding principles. It's an event. It's not an event, it's a process. Most people think, okay, day one, I got everything signed up. An effective onboarding program should take up to at least a year to make sure that person is onboarded effectively. It should start again before they're actually hired, and it can last up to a year. The next one I think is really important is onboarding should be a team effort. It shouldn't all be left up to the manager. It should be also, the team should be involved in it. Okay, so when you're looking at setting up your onboarding program, make sure the team is involved. I know sometimes onboarding can take a lot of time, but if you do invest in an onboarding plan or not in onboarding activities, it does get people up to speed faster. It's okay to use kind of the same onboarding plan per employee. You have to be a little bit flexible to make sure you're meeting the individual needs of the person, but having a well-structured plan is money in the bank for sure. And it's also about integration. It's about making sure that the person is integrated not only into the team environment, but into the informal and the formal culture of the organization. Okay, so again, just some thoughts around onboarding. You want to make sure that it starts early and that the team is involved. It's planned and well structured, and it's about integration. Okay, because don't forget, people decide whether in that first 6 months whether they're going to stay with an organization. Okay, when we look at engagement, it kind of starts in, you know, I really liked this graphic because I think it really shows a lot about how engagement starts during the onboarding process. Okay, so it talks a little bit about making sure that the person feels welcome, making sure that it's tailored to their personal needs. That's kind of the first step. The other one is making sure that there's some socialization and team building. You know, with our remote work environment, I think this one is key to making sure people feel involved. I was just reading an article on through the Harvard Business Review, and it talks about the epidemic of loneliness within our work environment. And I think that one is definitely related to people feeling lonely in their work. The next one that we're going to take a look at is feedback and recognition, how to implement that into your onboarding process. Obviously, making sure there's clear communication and expectations. I have some strategies to make sure that that is there. And then the last one, which is obviously near and dear to my heart, seeing that I've been in adult education and training for the last 20 odd years, is making sure that we are developing and training our employees effectively. Okay, so I have a question for you folks. From the personalized and welcoming aspect of things, how do you welcome new employees from an onboarding perspective? What are some things that you do? You see in the chat. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the chat again. The first day we walk around and introduce them and have a company lunch. The manager takes them to lunch and gives them company swag. I love it. Yep. Anything else? A welcome letter. That's awesome. A welcome letter is sent out the day before they start. Great. So you guys have hit some of them that that I'm talking about. These are just some other ones that you can take into account if you're not doing them. Pre-arrival, you want to make sure that there's a welcome letter. It's always nice to get a welcome letter from the CEO or definitely from their manager to make sure that they feel welcomed. In that welcome letter, you want to give them all the details, where to park, what their phone number will be, what their email address will be. You want to make sure all that stuff is sent to them beforehand. You know, I have one company and they send a welcome video from the team. Which is just a nice thing to receive before they've actually started. They send a welcome video. Always nice to send a welcome package with company swag beforehand, so they have, you know, the company mug before they actually start the day. Introduction to their onboarding buddy. How many people do an onboarding buddy in your organizations? Hopefully a lot, because that's a great way to make people feel welcome if they have that one person that they can go to. A copy of their announcement. It's always nice to send them a copy of their new hire announcement that everybody received from the organization. And the welcome sign in the lobby is also a nice touch to make sure that they feel welcome within the company. Let me just go back to the chat. Any other things on the chat that came up?
Yes, a few more.
Okay. Can you, I'm just trying to get to the chat again. Sorry, I'm not used to Teams.
I can read them.
Sure. Okay.
So Alini from H2R said, we send our new hires a week at a glance document describing what their first week will look like. Elena said HR rep is there on the first day to welcome them as well.
Yeah.
And Jeannie, manager sends an email the night before, first day, when they're likely having the Sunday scaries, telling them first day is going to be good and not to stress. That's excellent.
Love that. Love all those things. So Some great ideas, and hopefully you can take some of these ideas to help from an onboarding perspective as well, to make them feel welcome, and making sure it's a little personalized to them. You know, I have one company and they ask in the offer letter process what their favorite snack. And what they do is on the first day, they leave a personalized, you know, if it's jubes, they leave jubes on the person's desk. So they try and make it as personalized as possible, which I think can go a long way. Okay. The next one is socialization and team building. So, sorry, just a sec. I think this one is also an important one to make people feel welcome. You know, having an onboarding buddy, someone that, you know, can show them the ropes from a work perspective, but also from a cultural perspective. How does things work within this organization? I think that having an onboarding buddy that they can connect with prior to coming on, I think is great. Having the onboard buddy emailing them prior to the workday, I think is also good. You guys probably do this, having a meet and greet at lunch, whether it's virtual or whether it's in person. It's always nice to have a meet and greet for the new person. I have one client that does this. They provide a small directory of all the team members. And it's kind of like a fun facts about the team. And it's just a way for, again, the new person to get to know each other with this kind of fun fact sheet about each person on the team. Make sure that you're setting up a time that they can meet individually with each of the team members so they can get to know them a little bit better. Make sure that you tell the team to be open and have good communication with the new team member. Team building, getting teams together, especially if there's been a lot of changes within the team environment, is a really important one. At H2R, we have tons of different team building activities that we can certainly help you with if people are interested in that. Provide one with an organizational chart. Who fits where? You know, especially if it's a big company or even a small company. What does the organizational structure look like? And then the other one I think is an important one is making sure you're setting up informational meetings with other departments. So people that they're going to interact with on a regular basis, making sure you're setting up kind of informational interviews with them so they get a feel for the different departments. Is there anything that you guys do that that is not on here that you want to suggest to the group? If there is, please put it in the chat from a team building socialization standpoint to make sure that the person feels welcome. Team lunch, great. I have one company that I used to work with, and we would have wine down Wednesdays. So it was at 4:30. You could have wine or you could have tea, you could have whatever you wanted, but it was a chance for the team members, especially in a virtual environment, just to meet and just have a chit chat like you would at lunch in the office. It was a great way just to get to know a little bit about the other team members. Sometimes there was games, sometimes there was, just topics to discuss, and you didn't have to go, but it was a nice way for everybody to meet more on a social aspect rather than a work-related one. Okay. The next one is obviously giving feedback and recognition. This is something that's very important at the beginning. Especially too, because people are nervous about starting within a new company. So making sure that you're giving them feedback and recognition is definitely key. You want to make sure you're starting early and you're doing it often. So making sure that you are setting up regular touch points, either between you or the buddy, to make sure that someone is connecting with the person. Obviously, if it's somebody that's new in their career, you want to do it more often. Sometimes it can be daily, sometimes it can be weekly, depending on the experience of the person. The other thing is when we're looking at keeping in touch is use multiple sources or multiple formats. So do a Teams chat, do a phone call, do a video call, see if they can come into the office and have a meeting. Make sure you're doing it in lots of different formats if possible. Okay. Obviously, you want to be clear and concise when you're giving that feedback. You want to provide the right amount of information, but you don't want to do it for them. Okay, when they're learning, you got to give people time to learn the culture, learn the job. So you want to be being able to guide them, but you don't want to do it for them. Always good to set goals. When somebody's coming in, you want to make sure you're setting goals. And it's also good to collect feedback from other people on the team. So, such and such has just started. Is there anything that you've noticed that they're doing well? Is there any areas you think that they need to develop? Especially if you as the manager isn't involved directly all the time with that person, it's always good to get feedback from other people. Okay. We had one comment about welcoming them. Jeannie said we welcome them at the all hands meeting. We gather information about them that goes out to the whole company. We also send an email about where to park, where to have lunch, what's going to happen on day one. Things like we have a microwave, a toaster oven. That's all great because people want to know that first day what's going to happen. So great, thank you for that. Is there anything else that you guys do from a feedback and recognition standpoint for your new hires? Anybody has any ideas, by all means, let me know. If there's anything else that I didn't put on the list, make sure you write down if there's anything else. The next one is setting clear communication and expectations. This one sounds obvious, but I think it doesn't happen all the time when it comes to regarding feedback. Sorry, I have one comment regarding feedback. Regarding feedback, what do you think about asking the new employees regularly ask employers how they are doing? So asking the actual employee that's starting, 100%. How's it going? What are you doing? I do have some information on onboarding surveys. And it's all included in the presentation, so you guys can take that. But that's a great idea, Margaret, is, okay, how are you doing? What do you need? How can I help? That's a great question to ask them. I think making sure that you're setting clear expectations with the new employee is something that sounds good, but we don't often do it. So making sure that the managers are reviewing the job description. They're going over in detail. You can't evaluate someone's performance if they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. Okay, so going through the job description, making sure they don't have any questions about the job description, making sure you're reviewing the process of appraisal system. This is how we do our system. This is when we do it. This is what we look for. These are the behaviors that we're looking for. So give them an idea of the performance appraisal program and when it happens. If there's a bonus plan, make sure they understand what the bonus plan looks like. Make sure that you go through the key policies of the employee handbook. Don't just give it to them and get them to sign it. Take a look and see what are the ones that are most important to your role or to their role, and go through that with them. Give a copy of the manager's objective as well as the team's objectives, so they can start thinking about how they can contribute. If they have an idea of what the objectives are of the whole team and of the manager, it gives them more information. Always good to set 90-day objectives for the new hire. One reason is because they feel that they're actually doing something, they're achieving something, and it gives them more confidence, right? If they've achieved those goals that have been set out in those 90 days, it helps them with their confidence. So I would always do that. The other thing that I would suggest is discussing your management style and your expectations. One of the key things that I do with clients is I do an expectations meeting. And every time I do it, people go, this is fantastic. I don't know why we don't do this. And what it is sitting down with the manager and talking a little bit about your expectations and their expectations. So the questions that sometimes I facilitate it and sometimes the managers does it themselves. The questions that I usually suggest are, what do you know about me as the manager? What do you want to know? And a lot of times the questions that come out are, what's the best way to communicate? What's your management style like? How do I know when you're stressed? So it's having that forced conversation that usually happens over a period of time, but this forces it out, and it does bring up getting that person on board much quicker because all these questions have come out. And then also too, so what do you know about me? What would you like to know about me? What should I know about you as an employee? What's important to you? And then the last two things are, what are your expectations of me as your manager? What do you expect from me? And here's what I expect from you. I guarantee if you implement those, or you get your managers to implement those conversations, people will be up and running quicker because all that information has come out. Does anybody right now do expectations sessions at their current organization? Let me know. If you want any more information, I have tons of information on the expectations meetings, and they're fantastic. We got, thanks, Claire. Claire said we do 30, 60, 90 days, which includes expectations. Love it. This one is good because it talks about your expectations, their expectations, but it also talks about how you want to work together. How is this going to work? What works for you and what works for me as a manager? So, ask them the question, what do you need to be more productive? What do you need from me? That comes out in those questions. Make sure you're scheduling those one-on-one meetings. A lot of times they get pushed aside. You can't do that when it's a new hire from an engagement standpoint. You want to make sure you're committed to those one-on-ones. And then onboarding. I noticed that a few people do onboarding surveys. Janine said we do an onboarding survey and then have an interview to understand their needs and look at ways in improving onboarding. Fantastic. We kind of recommend you do an onboarding survey at 6 weeks, 3 months, and then 6 months. And I have some sample questions for you that you can take a look at. The reason being is because they're different questions depending on the timing. Okay, so it's going to be different depending on each of the timing. Anything else that you guys do from a communication standpoint that you can suggest that isn't on the list? I'll show you an example of some of the new hire surveys questions. So again, the first one, the 6-week one, is the job what you expected? Is it what we told you it was going to be? Is always a good question to ask at the beginning. Then it talks a little bit about more of the technical stuff of the onboarding. Did you see a job description? Did you see a performance appraisal? Did you get a buddy? How many times did you see your buddy? The 90-day one is the job what you expected, because it's a little bit longer. Did you receive the training that you needed for this position, and was it successful? Did you meet with human resources? Did you feel welcomed by team members? And then the 6-month one tends to focus on more of the manager stuff. So are you facing any roadblocks? Is your manager giving you what you need? Is your manager being supportive? That way, again, if you get this information, you can try and address if there are any issues that come up. Okay. I definitely recommend onboarding surveys, even if you do one, just to get some feedback from your new employee. And it doesn't have to be HR, it can be the manager. Sometimes HR gets more information than the manager might, but I think the point is making sure that you're asking them. Okay. The next one is hands-on training. And I think this one, and again, maybe I'm a little biased because I've been in training for so long, but I do think training is something that is key. When you look at, I just did some work on kind of generations in the workplace. Definitely the Gen X's and the new generation coming in, training will be a must. I think even when you look at these stats, 92% of employees say a well-designed training plan gives them more job satisfaction. It increases employee retention, it improves performance, and people feel connected. I think the last one is definitely true. I have found, especially after coming out of COVID, people are kind of getting back together. I'm doing a lot more training in person, and you can feel it in the room that people are so glad to be connected again from a training perspective. So training definitely is something that I think should be a focus for 2025. Couple things when we look at ways to develop, it doesn't necessarily just have to be training. This is a great book that I found, actually, sorry, that's the French version, but it's called 88 Ways to Develop in Place. And it's a great one because it talks a little bit about, it doesn't have to be necessarily training, but you want to make sure that everybody has a training plan. Everyone has some sort of development plan, and you're sitting down and you're talking to them about their development plan. Coaching is great. I know we're going to talk a little bit about coaching towards the end. Having an internal coach or an external coach can provide a lot of good insight for to help develop people. E-learning, job shadowing, job rotation is a great way for people to keep people motivated. Corporate training days, I think, are great. Small strategic assignments. So, putting somebody on a team that they wouldn't necessarily be on, but it's a strategic assignment for them to learn and develop. Having intercompany presentations, having somebody from your team do a presentation to your manager as a development. Tap into the stuff that's out there. The information we have at H2R, TikTok, LinkedIn, all those things. Thank you for putting the title down. Thank you. The other thing is I have a manager who they listen to a business podcast every month, and then at lunch hour at the end of the month, whoever has listened to it, they come and they sit around and they talk about the business podcast, or it could be a book, or it could be an article, or whatever. It's just having a discussion from a business perspective. And then invite a guest expert, somebody within your organization, or somebody that's not in your organization that would bring value. Invite them in to have a talk about the industry, perhaps. Is there anything you guys are doing from a development standpoint that isn't on this list? Anything that is coming into play that you're doing from a development standpoint? The job rotation thing, I think, has been effective. Mentorship, excellent one, Sarah. That's a great one. Yeah. One of the things we use is coffee with the CEO. Love that as well. That's a great one. Yep. Having local associations come in. Yep. I know another one we did was we contacted our EAP program. We had one company that had the majority of people were looking at retirement probably within the next 5 to 10 years. So it was an older workforce. And we had our EAP person come in and talk about financial planning for retirement. And it was great. It was very well attended. It was a lunch and learn. So there's lots of different resources that you can use, your EAP, schools, associations that can bring in guest speakers. Okay, great. So we've talked about onboarding, and I want to talk a little bit more about employee engagement. Those were some things you can do to help people stay engaged in the onboarding process, but I do want to talk a little bit about employee engagement itself. So what do you guys think employee engagement is? What would be the definition, do you think, of employee engagement? If you want to put it in the chat, that would be great. Or not. Enthusiasm and connection with their work. Love it. All right. So this is a McLean & Company. I did some research and I looked at employee engagement. This is, you guys kind of nailed it when you talk about there's a sense of energy and participation in their work. And I think some of the comments you guys left is employees are excited to come to work every day. They feel motivated and connected. They perceive the connection with their organization and their job. That makes an engaged employee. Okay, a little bit of a difference. When we look at employee engagement, we can have the people that are satisfied in their job. They're the people that get their job done. They're average performers. They care, but they may just meet the minimum requirements. They stay at the organization because they get a paycheck, right? We want employees to be engaged. We want the ones that are all those things that you guys talked about. They're energized, they participate, they look for ways to improve. They stay at the organization because they feel a connection. So how do we get that? How do we get employees to feel that way? A couple ways that we don't do it, I'm going to show you kind of ways that disengage people is, and take a look at this list and see, okay, has this been happening within my organization? Have these been some ways that people have been starting to be disengaged? Passed over for promotion, that's always a red flag. So if you have somebody that has been passed over, you may need to do a little bit of work with them because chances are they're looking. If a high potential employee doesn't know what the career path is for them, that is a driver. The manager is replaced by a boss that no one likes. We're going to talk a little bit about the relationship and how important the manager relationship is for engagement. Sometimes an unexpected job offer comes into play. Recruiters are out there looking for people. Petty or unreasonable enforcement of authority. I think that goes back to the manager. Being denied a request for family leave. Realizing the job is not as promised. So you recruit them for one thing and it's a totally different position. Receiving an unexpectedly low performance rating. I think a lot of you guys are in HR. There should be no unexpected low performance ratings. The person should have known that well in advance of the performance appraisal. They get a lower increase in pay, or the compensation issue is raised, but it was never addressed. So somebody is raised that they think they should be getting an increase, and nothing ever happens. So there are some drivers that make people leave or not be engaged. A couple other ones are the company's been purchased. That's also one to be careful of. Being asked to perform menial tasks, conflict with coworkers that is not addressed, or managers. Another key one, especially when we look at the younger group, if a key colleague resigns, that is typically one where people will make a move if one of their close friends has resigned. Being unpaid compared to others in a similar job. I don't know if you guys know the new legislation that came out that talks about fair compensation. So everybody needs to, when posting positions, the compensation needs to be there. So that that issue may come up depending on how transparent the organizations have been with their compensation. Another one is realizing that they're not a succession candidate. That can come into play. When there's been significant external hiring of senior leaders, people will leave at that because they realize that they're not going to get promoted from within, and there's new competitors to the market. That's another one to make sure that you're aware of. Okay, so these are all drivers. These are all things that make people leave. So be aware of them, especially if you're in human resources, that this is one that if one of these happen, you need to be careful. Okay. All right, I want to talk a little bit about, okay, how do we get engaged employees? What are kind of the key things that keep people engaged? And I'm going to ask you guys, there's 5 factors when we look at engagement. So what are the 5 factors do you guys think that are most likely to keep people engaged within their organization? So 5. Can you guys tell me what you think the 5 key things would be to keep that keep people engaged at an organization?
And Jenny, there's just been a question from Claire.
Sure.
I think to the previous slide when you were speaking, how to get employees back if these happen.
So some of those disengagers, those drivers, I guess depending on what it is, it's having a conversation with them. You know, hey, I know that one of your good friends has just left the organization. I just want to check in with you to make sure that how you're doing, like addressing it, right? I know that you have a new manager. I just wanted to check in to see how things are going with the new manager. So I think it's checking in or doing. I'm going to talk about pulse surveys. If there's been a major change, doing a pulse survey to kind of check to see where employees are at is also a really good one. But I'm going to come back to that. So here we go. We have what keeps people engaged, a connection, growth opportunities, open communication with senior leadership. Yep, growth opportunities, recognition, fair wage, culture. Yep, you guys have nailed it. Being heard, seen, understood by the present and engaged leader. That's for sure. I'm gonna talk a little bit about doing employee engagement surveys. No point in doing an employee engagement survey if you're not going to do anything about it. That just makes people angry, and there's no point in doing it. Okay. So we're going to talk about a few of these things that you guys talked about. So the first three are tied, and you guys got them all. A relationship with your immediate manager, that's still probably one of the number one things that is important to people. Opportunities for growth. I think that one's just going to keep going. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be, they have to climb the corporate ladder. They want to be able to grow. So if I'm doing marketing, I want to take a look at doing sales. Again, it could be a lateral move, but I want to learn new skills. Okay. And then organizational culture. This is something I think we need to concentrate on because it's kind of gone by the wayside. So I'm going to talk about each one of these a little bit and give you guys some strategies to help address some of these. The other two that were closely behind were flexibility and compensation and benefits. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about both of them as well. And I think you guys got most of them actually. I like these ones too. A strong strategic compass, knowing where the company is going. I think that is related to that organizational culture as well. Love it. That's great. So, relationship with the immediate manager. This is nothing that's not new. We spend a lot of time with our manager. Our manager has a pivotal role in our career. They make a significant difference. So this still draws people. They want to work with people that support them. They want to work with people that are involved in their career, that are understanding, that are good communicators. Nothing has changed. Okay, we do a workshop for new managers, and we talk a lot about this, that you are the driver of your employees to make sure that they're engaged. And we talk a little bit about how to make sure we're engaging our employees. Okay. Does HR do their own research, or did the information come from another source? This is research that I did, Sarah, so I can send you the sources that I used, but it was research that I put together. So having a management development, I think, is something that's key. If you have crappy managers, you're going to have people that are not engaged. The next one is opportunities for career growth. We think a lot about, training programs, but there's lots of other things that you can do. Make sure everyone has an individual development plan. Make sure they have short-term goals or stretch goals. Establish rotational opportunities. Even within your department, is there a way you can switch people around within the department? I worked with a company, we had a sales rep who was a rock star. Like, he was fantastic. And we knew we were going to lose him because he was getting bored. And it was a pretty flat company. So what we did was we did rotations. So he was in sales. We brought him into marketing for a month. So he did a marketing rotation and got a feel for marketing, went back out into the sales field. Then did another rotation. It was a pharmaceutical company. He went into regulatory affairs, did a month in regulatory affairs, got a feel for regulatory affairs. So we kept him, but we also developed him. So then when that position, that next step came available, he had exposure to all the different departments in the organization. So it was fantastic for him and for us. Job redesign, coaching, mentoring was brought up, and then having quarterly conversations, not about performance, but about your career. You know, having those conversations, how are you developing? What is it that you need? Where do you want to go? Making sure that you're putting that information down, or you're having those conversations with your employees. Okay. And then the last one is organizational culture. This one, I had a conversation with the client about this. Organizational culture can't just be something you put on the wall. It has to be ingrained in everything you do. It has to be ingrained in your performance management conversations. You know, people should be rated on the values that your company has. It should be integrated in your interview questions. It should be integrated into your training programs, into your recognition programs. Culture is something that takes a lot of work, and I think it can't just be nice words on a wall. It has to be integrated into your HR systems. Okay. Is there anything that your company does that promotes organizational culture? I'd love to hear some examples. Anybody? Quarterly town halls. Yep. I have one organization that I work with, and one of their kind of key messages is environmental. So you know, they want to be an environmentally responsible company. So they'll have days where they go down to the beaches, or they go to you know, different parts of the province that they're in, and they pick up garbage. So they're really enforcing that culture within the organization. Okay. So think a little bit about how is your company enforcing that culture, that enforcing their values. We have a couple monthly staff meetings with lunch provided, also provide paid off time for volunteer days. Love it. Companies, I've seen decision-making matrix that involved the company values. Love it. Monthly safety meetings. Safety is huge for our company, so that's reinforcing that value. That's great. Thank you, guys. The last one is compensation. This one was not the top three, but it is important, and I think it's important that there's equality. If there isn't equality, there's going to be trouble. It's not. If there's an inequality, you need to increase the compensation. If the person will stay, but that's not going to be their prime motivator. Everybody wants to be compensated fairly, but there's other things that you can do. You have to make sure you're at a level playing field. So some long-term strategies, you know, retention bonuses. I've seen organizations do that. You know, increase severance packages. Supplementary retirement programs if people are kind of near retirement, offering stock options. Some short-term structures are, you know, having salary and benefit adjustments, having one-time stock options, or having, you know, additional benefits, whether it's gym memberships or it's healthcare spending accounts. I think that one is also a good one. Instead of, you know, you want to make sure that everyone is being treated fair and equitable, and these are the extras that you can do from a compensation standpoint. The one thing that I think, and you guys probably do this, but I wanted to make sure that you did, is making sure people realize their total rewards, right? Because a lot of times people just look at, this is how much I get paid. I have a lot of organizations that I work with, and we do total rewards statements. So during performance appraisals, they get a total reward statement that looks at, do you get your birthday off? Do you get a wellness coach? We offer free food in the office. So people understand that they are also benefits as well. Okay, those total rewards. And then the last one is flexibility. I think I don't think this one is going anywhere. I think flexibility is something that's still going to be key, which is which is here to stay. It doesn't necessarily just mean a flexible coming into the office. There's lots of other things you can do to make a workplace flexible. Flexible scheduling, flex hours, flex locations. One is job sharing. That's another one that I participated in job sharing many moons ago, and it definitely kept me with the company. I just had my second baby, and the commute was too much. And my boss came to me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in job sharing?" Because they liked my maternity leave replacement, and it was fantastic. So it kept me. I continued working on with the company well after the job share ended. Across department secondments, sabbaticals and leave, gradual retirement, or compressed work weeks. So there's lots of things you can do to make sure that you're a flexible organization. Okay. And the one other thing is mental health. I'm not going to go through the stats, but mental health is definitely something that's becoming more and more we need to be more and more aware of as HR and as employers, making sure that we are talking more about mental health. I think that's also key. So mental health, but the other one I think we also need to add in is diversity. And not just, diversity in having a course once a year, actually having diversity initiatives that are implemented and become part of our culture. I think if you haven't been looking at diversity, it's something that is going to be needed in the future from an engagement standpoint. Okay, so couple things to, and then I'm going to pass it over, but a couple things that I just wanted to talk a little bit about is some of the surveys. Is making sure you're doing retention interviews, making sure that you're doing pulse checks. And I can give you guys some copies of pulse check questions to make sure that you're checking in to see how people are doing. Doing exit interviews. If you did lose somebody, making sure you're doing an exit interview to understand why you lost them. Another key thing that you can do is talent reviews. If you have those high potentials and they don't feel that they're, kind of getting anywhere, doing a talent review. That's definitely something H2R can help with, is talent reviews. And it's a really good way to look at developing people and showing them where they can go within the organization. And that is definitely an engagement strategy as well. So I know I went through a lot of that really quickly. I will send the presentation for sure. I think one of the key things, and I love this quote because I think this really sums up how I feel about engagement. When people are financially invested, they want to return. When people are emotionally connected, they want to contribute. And I think that's such a good quote when it comes to engagement. We don't want to just give them a paycheck. We want to make sure that they feel connected and feel welcomed so that they contribute and are engaged employees. Okay, so I know I've talked a lot, so I will pass it over. And if anybody has any questions, I can certainly stay on after we're finished.
That was excellent, Jenny. Thank you so much. I think some of those strategies and tools that you shared with us, I think we can all use them throughout our onboarding programs. So thank you very much. Again, if there's questions for Jenny, you can just pop them in the chat. But I'd like to welcome now Vince Bowery, Chief Revenue Officer from Aluxy, who's going to share some exciting news with us. So welcome, Vince.
Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for allowing me to jump in. Can everyone hear me, I hope? Thumbs up? Awesome. Technology's working today. That's a good way to start, right? So hello and a very warm welcome to everyone tuned in today. My name is Vince Bowery and I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Aluxy. We're a Canadian tech firm that's developed a bilingual course library that's being used by over 100 clients and 185,000 active users across Canada, including TD Bank, City of Montreal, CPHR Canada, and Via Rail. And we are so excited. Just about a month ago, we have launched our partnership with H2R. And this isn't just a collaboration, it's really a revolution in integrating H2R's state-of-the-art strategies and our pioneering technology. So our goal is to help H2R to catapult organizational training, making it more accessible, engaging, and can you imagine, even enjoyable? It can happen, I promise. So through this partnership, we want to really move training and development from being a compliance checkmark to a strategy that will embed behavioral change within the organization. Can we move to the next slide, please?
Jenny, can you just forward the slide, please?
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Oops.
Here we are. Awesome. So like I said, through this partnership, we really want to move the training and development from just that compliance checkmark. We want to get away from that and think about how do we really embed behavioral change within organizations. And we know that people leaders such as yourselves, you're challenged with finding quality content. You're challenged by finding great assessment tools with limited resources. So we really built an immersive solution that allows you to boost engagement, increase retention, and measure the ROI of training. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Sure.
So our course library includes immersive learning tools. So just to get a little bit nostalgic, and maybe you could raise your hand virtually. Does anyone remember Choose Your Own Adventure books from elementary school and how fun they were? Or is that just me? Hopefully you remember. Now imagine if you can capture the same magic and excitement in professional development. And that's exactly what we've done here at Aluxy with our immersive assessment tools. So these aren't your average run-of-the-mill training videos. These are adventures that once you choose a selection, it propels you towards a unique outcome, truly mirroring the real world. So we see learners are coming back 3.7 times to engage in this training, as opposed to just getting to the end of the training, looks like an old VHS video and they jump out, right? We don't want that. People are engaging because it's not just learning, it's experiencing the actual activities, and it's helping them to master skills. So we focus intensely on skills, rapid skill development, clear and effective communication, mobilizing teams, managing stress, and developing a keen anticipation of future needs. Can we jump to the next slide? So in real life, this is what typically happens. With our immersive games, it's about a 2-minute video, and in between each video, you're given a certain scenario. So it could be that you're the CEO of a company. It could be something around workplace harassment. We also have some that deal with cannabis in the workplace and innovation in the workplace as well. Down the left-hand column, you'll see there's a number of KPIs that are measured: customer satisfaction, stock stability, and there's a number of skills being developed on the left-hand column too. So this is where that immersive aspect comes in. So typically a 2-minute video plays. Can we go to the next slide?
Sure.
And then you're given, hey, here's your choose your own adventure. You're given a number of options. You can go with A, B, or C based on this situation. So this, like I said, we do have different modules on everything from workplace harassment, and a number of different workplace scenarios. Can we go back 2 slides, please?
Sorry.
No problem. And once you actually
oh my gosh, sorry. It's not sticking. There we go.
There we go. So once you actually make a selection, and these are really neat because you can't go back. Once you make a selection in real life, you have to move it forward. On that note, we'll move the slide forward just one, please. And you'll see my key performance indicators on the left-hand side based on my results. They went red, so that doesn't mean I chose the wrong result. There are no wrong answers, but it's really based on a platform of these are the outcomes of your decision. And this is why people are engaging in this 3.7 times on average, is because they try to game the system. And when you try to game the system, you make riskier and riskier decisions. So we want to ensure that the behaviors and actions of the organization, individuals, are congruent with the behaviors that are ideal for the organization. Can we go to the next slide, please? So after someone actually engages in these immersive assessments, we do have a number of training modules that are both synchronous and asynchronous, covering topics like health and safety, mental health, physical health, ergonomics in the workplace, and a number of other topics. We actually have about 25 synchronous and asynchronous courses covering these subjects. If you can imagine topics such as Excel, Microsoft Copilot, which is AI in the workplace. Everyone's trying to figure out like, hey, how do we move forward with AI? We do offer some some asynchronous and synchronous courses around that too. And like I said, we're really excited to partner with H2R and help your organizations to boost what training and development can look like with some real-time reporting functionality as well. So not only are you being able to go through the training, as administrators, you do get a number of different reports that help you to guide everything from that next leadership training that's needed to who are your future leaders of tomorrow based on some of these assessment tools. So we really look forward to continuing to partner with H2R, Maja, and the rest of the team to embed some of these best practices within your organization. Thank you so much for the time, everyone.
Excellent. So, Vince, thank you so much. We're excited about this partnership just as much as you are. So if you're interested in learning more about our online learning or you wanted to see our catalog and our courses, please reach out to us. We can do a free demo. Send us an email at training@yourh2r.com and we can help you look at our LMS and the back end. So thanks again, Vince. Thanks again, Jenny. I think in light of our timing right now, that concludes our Lunch and Learn for December. I know there's just one question for Jenny that came in. How to get employees back if they have lost engagement and are quiet quitting?
Yeah, it's a good one. I think more and more people are seeing that. So good question. I think my advice would be is it a group or is it an individual? First of all, if it's group, then I think there has to be an intervention, kind of doing an engagement survey with the team, and then coming up with some strategies on how to bring them back. If it's an individual, it's sitting down and asking, what's going on? Why are you not engaged? And again, making it individual to try and meet their needs. So hopefully that helps.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Jenny did say she will share the presentation, so look out for that in your emails shortly. And we will see you next month. Happy holidays and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.